Welcome. In this video, we are going to be looking at literal equations. So we should probably start off with, what is a literal equation? A literal equation is any equation with more than one variable. And that does not mean is an x on one side and an x on the other side, but more than one distinct variable. So there are some x's, y's, b's, q's, p's, any variable. So within our literal equations, we're still going to utilize the same tools to solve, but we're just going to be told what variable we're solving for, because otherwise we don't know which variable we're isolating. Other than that, our process is still going to be the same. It's just our arithmetic is going to be a little easier because when we are solving, oftentimes we can't actually do the operation. We're just going to leave it as a divided by b, or q minus z, or whatever we end up getting. So let's take a look at what this looks like with some examples here. So if we have this equation, A equals B times H for H. Keep in mind, anytime we have multiple things written next to each other, it's multiplication. So you can sneak a little times sign in there if that helps you think that way. So if we want to solve this for h, that means h is the variable that we're isolating. I want to get this h by itself. So I'm thinking, what am I doing to h? H is being multiplied by b, and we're still going to use our inverse operations to isolate that variable. So inverse of multiplication is division. Still have to keep it in a balanced equation. So we're going to divide both sides by b. This b divided by b divides out, and we're left with h equals a over b. And the nice thing about literal equations, I don't have to know what a over b is because those are just variables themselves. So we're going to leave the equation there. These equations are particularly handy when you are using any sort of applications, particularly science. If you had some equation that you know that a equals b over b times h, but you're figuring out what A is and what B is, and you want to know what H is every single time, we might as well already have it solved for H, so we can just plug in A and B and know the answer, plug in A and B, know the answer, rather than having to resolve the same equation over and over. So let's take a look at some more examples here. Next one here, we have P equals 2L plus 2W. Some of these equations might look familiar. This is looking at the perimeter of a rectangle. The perimeter is equal to 2 lengths plus 2 widths. And if we want to solve here in this case for W. So again, we're just going to identify this is the variable I'm solving for. Let's see how we can get it by itself. So W is being multiplied by 2, but then we're also adding this 2L. So we're going to start inverse operations in reverse order, subtracting 2L from both sides. And L and P are not like terms, so I can't put them together. So we'll just have P minus 2L equals 2W. Okay, now we're still doing something to W. We're multiplying by 2, so we're going to divide by 2. Make sure we're dividing the whole side by 2. So we're going to get W is equal to P minus 2L over 2. Okay, so same process as what we've been doing so far. It just looks a little different because we're not actually evaluating what those things are, because we're dealing with more variables than we are numbers. So here we have Q equals C plus D over 2. So keep in mind this is a grouping symbol, so this plus D would be what we would do first, then divide by 2. So if I want to get D by itself, first thing we're going to need to do is multiply both sides by 2. So we get 2Q is equal to C plus D. Since these twos divide out, I'm trying to get D by itself, so let's get rid of that C. Subtract C from both sides. Not like terms, so we can't put those together. D is equal to 2Q minus C. Okay, here's another one. This one looks really similar. We're solving for this E here. We have some multiplication, some subtraction, some division. So let's start by getting rid of this M, since that's the last thing we would do here, would be divide by M after we did that grouping symbol in the numerator. So we're going to multiply both sides by M. So we get SM or MS, either one, they're both equivalent, equals W minus 10E. And our goal is to get e by itself, so let's get rid of our w. Not like terms, so sm minus w equals negative 10e. 10 times e, so we're going to divide, negative 10, negative 10. Okay. Again, we don't know what any of that is, so we're just going to leave it as sm minus w all over negative 10 equals e. Now we know what e is equal to. Okay, here's a more algebra example. We have an x and a y, and we know to solve this for y. We're going to do this a lot this year, particularly when we're graphing equations. So to get y by itself, we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. 2y equals negative 3x plus 8. If you wrote 8 minus 3x, also totally acceptable. Divide by 2, divide by 2. We could leave this right here and say y is negative 3x plus 8 over 2. Oftentimes when we're doing this year, we really want to have those be two separate terms. So remember, with fractions, we can split it up. We're dividing the whole thing by 2, so we could write this as y equals negative 3x over 2 plus 8 over 2. And then we could actually simplify the 8 over 2 to y equals negative 3 halves x plus 4. Okay, this is not wrong. Just for the purposes we're going to see later on, knowing that these are equivalent and that we can simplify down to there is going to be helpful as well. Okay, last example we're going to look at here is a equals 1/2 bh, and we're trying to solve this one for h. So again, always good to identify this is the variable we want to get by itself. This is all multiplication, right? And this says 1/2 times b times h, so we can just divide by 1/2 bh, but that's going to make us think a little bit because dividing by a fraction, really we're multiplying by the reciprocal. So let's get rid of this 1/2 first by multiplying by its reciprocal, which is just 2. So we'll get 2a equals bh, then divide by b, and we'll get h equals 2a over b. Okay, if we are multiplying by multiple things, we could divide by those things at the same time. Just that 1/2 being that fraction where we have to think a little bit differently to divide by fractions. Doing it in 2 separate steps is probably a little easier. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching.